This is your fault. Stop twisting things.
Don't blame me. You know the truth.
My son was defending himself. You're completely overreacting to this. Sharon Caldwell stood in the community park 20 minutes after her 19-year-old fired a warning shot at my 8-year-old son, and she had the audacity to tell me I was the problem. The 911 recording just proved he committed a felony. When her son arrived at the basketball court drunk and threatened 4 children playing, I watched from 30 feet away. When he retrieved a handgun from his car because the kids wouldn't leave fast enough, I started running toward my son. When he fired that warning shot into the air, crack echoing across the park, children screaming and scattering in terror, I was already dialing 911 on my personal phone. The board chair made 3 mistakes that afternoon. She threatened the wrong children, she intimidated the wrong witness, and she forgot that the father calling for help supervises every emergency recording in this county. My name is Marcus Bishop. I manage 911 dispatch operations, and the call I made, reporting shots fired near my child, is time-stamped, geolocated, and permanently archived on government servers her authority can't touch. If you've ever watched someone protect a dangerous person while punishing the victims, then hit subscribe now. My son Tyler is 8 years old. 3 hours before that gunshot, he was playing basketball with his friends, laughing, running, being a kid in the community park where a memorial plaque promises children will always play safely. Sharon's son Ethan destroyed that safety in 4 seconds. One drunken confrontation. One weapon brandished at terrified children. One warning shot fired into the air while kids scattered screaming. Tyler won't sleep now, has nightmares about the gunshot, wakes up crying, asking if the bad man with the gun is coming back. My wife Rachel, she's a pediatric nurse, she knows trauma when she sees it, got him into emergency therapy within 48 hours. But Tyler wasn't alone on that court. 3 other children witnessed it. 6-year-old Sophia Ramirez, 9-year-old Arjun Patel, 10-year-old Maya Johnson. All 4 kids now terrified of loud noises. All 4 having nightmares. All 4 asking their parents why the man who scared them didn't get in trouble. Because when police arrived, the HOA president convinced the responding officer, who happens to be married to her friend, that her son was defending himself from aggressive children. That I was overreacting to scare a young man exercising his Second Amendment rights. No arrest, no charges. Just Sharon telling me this was an internal community matter being blown out of proportion. The next day, I received an HOA violation notice for creating public disturbance by involving law enforcement without board approval, and for allowing my child to engage in threatening behavior toward residents. My 8-year-old son, who ran away crying from a drunk man with a gun, was being blamed for threatening the person who terrorized him. That's when I knew the board chair wasn't interested in truth or safety or protecting children. She was interested in protecting her son from consequences, and she was willing to weaponize HOA authority, rewrite reality, and traumatize 4 families to do it. But Sharon Caldwell made one critical miscalculation. She thought she could delete the security camera footage from the park and erase what happened. She thought she could intimidate witness families into silence with violation notices and threats. She thought she could control the narrative because she controlled the HOA. What she didn't think about was the 911 call I made while watching my son flee from her armed son. That 4-minute 23-second recording where I identified myself as Emergency Dispatch Supervisor Marcus Bishop, provided my employee ID, reported adult male discharged firearm in community park. Multiple children present ages 6 to 10. Children screaming and fleeing. Shots fired. My son is one of the children. That recording captured the gunshot in the background, captured the children's terrified screams, captured my professional assessment that this was a shots-fired incident requiring immediate response. That recording lives on redundant backup systems across state emergency services networks, and the HOA president, for all her authority, all her influence, all her connections, has absolutely no power to delete it. Where are you watching from? Because what started with a warning shot at children ended with criminal charges, a media firestorm, and a community learning that some cover-ups can't survive permanent evidence. Sharon thought she'd erased the truth. She'd only erased the easy copy. Tyler didn't sleep that night. I sat beside his bed at 2 a.m., listening to my 8-year-old whimper in his sleep, watching him jerk awake every 20 minutes with the same terrified question. Is the bad man coming back? Rachel held him, rocked him like he was a toddler again, whispered promises we weren't sure we could keep. You're safe, baby. He can't hurt you. Daddy made sure of it. But Tyler couldn't believe it, because the man who'd waved a gun at him and pulled the trigger was still out there, still living in the community, still unpunished. By morning, Rachel had Tyler scheduled with Dr. Amy Richardson, a child trauma therapist who'd helped kids after school shootings. That's what we were dealing with, active shooter trauma response for a basketball game. I started making calls to the other parents whose children had witnessed the shooting. The Johnsons answered first. I could hear their 10-year-old daughter Maya crying in the background. She won't leave the house, Mrs. Johnson said, her voice breaking. Won't even look out the window toward the park. Keeps saying she hears the gun going off. The Patels were worse. Their 9-year-old son, Arjun, had locked himself in his bedroom and was having full panic attacks every time he heard a door slam or a car backfire. The HOA president called us this morning, Mr. Patel said quietly. Told us our son and the other children were harassing her son, that we need to control our kids' behavior. Marcus, she's making our traumatized child sound like the aggressor. The Ramirez family had the youngest witness, 6-year-old Sophia, who'd started wetting the bed again and couldn't articulate why she was scared, just that the loud noise hurt my ears and everyone was screaming. 4 children, 4 families, all dealing with the same nightmare, all being told by the board chair that their kids were the problem. That afternoon, I received my official HOA violation notice. Certified mail, legal letterhead. Violation: creating public disturbance by involving law enforcement in internal community matters without prior board approval and consent. Violation: allowing minor child to engage in threatening, aggressive, and harassing behavior toward community resident Ethan Caldwell. Fine, $500. I called Sharon directly. This is absurd. Your son fired a weapon near children. My son is having nightmares. The other kids are traumatized. And you're fining me? Her voice was ice. Your son and those other children were harassing Ethan. He felt threatened. He has every right to defend himself on community property. If you continue making false accusations against my family, Mr. Bishop, you'll face additional consequences. False accusations? I have a 911 recording. You have an overreaction, which is why the responding officer chose not to make an arrest. Ethan did nothing illegal, but your continued harassment of my son absolutely is creating problems. She hung up. I stood in my kitchen, violation notice in hand, and felt something cold settle in my chest. The HOA president wasn't interested in children's safety. She was interested in protecting her son from accountability for terrorizing kids with a firearm. That evening, my neighbor Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who'd lived in Riverside Meadows for 8 years, knocked on my door. She looked over her shoulder before speaking, like she was afraid of being watched. "I need to tell you something about Ethan Caldwell." She described an incident from 6 months earlier. Ethan had been speeding through the neighborhood, 40 miles per hour in a 25 zone. Mrs. Chen, walking her dog, had yelled at him to slow down. Ethan stopped his car, got out, and threatened her. "You better mind your own business, old lady, or you'll regret it." She'd filed a complaint with the board chair. Sharon had responded by issuing Mrs. Chen 3 HOA violations within a week. Mailbox non-compliant, lawn maintenance below standards, unauthorized garden decorations. She told me if I pursued complaints against her son, my life in this community would become very difficult, Mrs. Chen whispered. I withdrew my complaint. I was too scared to fight her. "Has Ethan done anything else?" Mrs. Chen nodded. "I've heard stories, confrontations with other residents, underage drinking at the community pool, reckless driving. Every time someone complains, Sharon makes the complaint go away and punishes the person who reported it." She touched my arm. "Be careful, Mr. Bishop. That woman protects her son like he's above the law, and she'll destroy anyone who suggests otherwise." After she left, I sat on my porch and watched the community park in the distance. The basketball court where my son had been playing 3 days ago, the memorial plaque promising children's safety. That promise was broken, and the person who broke it was using HOA authority to rewrite what happened, blame the victims, and ensure her dangerous son faced no consequences. But Sharon Caldwell didn't know something. I wasn't just a scared parent she could intimidate with violation notices and threats. I was the person who controlled access to the one piece of evidence she couldn't manipulate, couldn't delete, couldn't make disappear. The 911 recording that proved her son had committed a crime. And I was about to make sure everyone, law enforcement, media, the entire community, heard exactly what was on that call. Derek Hammond appeared at my door at 10 p.m. 2 days after the shooting, looking like a man who hadn't slept since it happened. "Mr. Bishop, I need to talk to you about what Sharon's doing, about what I saw." I recognized him. HOA Vice President, retired firefighter, always beside the board chair at community meetings. I stepped aside, let him in, watched him glance nervously at the windows like he expected someone to be watching. He stood in my living room, wouldn't sit, kept shifting his weight from foot to foot. His hands trembled as he pulled them from his pockets, then shoved them back in. He checked his phone twice in 30 seconds, swallowed hard before speaking. "I have a daughter, 32 years old. She has cerebral palsy, lives with me." "Okay." "Her wheelchair ramp, the one I built so she can get in and out of our house. It technically violates setback requirements by 8 inches. His voice cracked. "Sharon reminded me of that yesterday. Said it would be unfortunate if the board had to cite it as a violation and require removal." I understood immediately. She's threatening you. She's threatening my daughter's ability to access our home. Derek finally sat, perched on the edge of my couch like he might need to run. The day after the shooting, Sharon called an emergency board meeting. Just the 5 board members. No community notice, no public attendance. That's not legal. She doesn't care. She told us what happened at the park, but her version said your son and the other kids were harassing and threatening Ethan, that they'd been aggressive, and wouldn't leave when asked. That Ethan felt genuinely threatened for his safety. That's a complete lie. Derek's hands clenched. I know, but she had a statement, prepared, wanted all board members to sign it. Official HOA board position. The children were the aggressors. Ethan acted in self-defense. You're manufacturing a false narrative to harass the Caldwell family. Did you sign it? His face showed shame and fear in equal measure. She looked at me and said, Derek, I hope your daughter's accessibility needs don't become an issue for this board. It would be terrible if we had to enforce code compliance that affected her independence. So yes, I signed it. I felt sick. What else happened at that meeting? Derek pulled out his phone, showed me photos he'd taken surreptitiously. After we signed the statement, Sharon pulled up the HOA security camera system on her laptop. The park has cameras covering the basketball court. There's footage of the shooting? There was footage. He pulled up a photo showing a computer screen with a security interface. I watched her log in, navigate to the date and time, and delete it. 14 hours after the incident, she erased 8 minutes and 47 seconds of video. Then she told us the footage was missing due to technical malfunction. You watched her destroy evidence? I watched the HOA president delete security footage that would have shown exactly what her son did to those children. Derek's voice shook. I'm a firefighter. I've worked with law enforcement for 30 years. I know what evidence tampering looks like. And I watched her do it while threatening board members to stay silent. Why are you telling me this now? He pulled out a small notebook, hands shaking so badly he could barely hold it. Because I documented everything, the exact time she accessed the system, the login credentials she used. They're assigned specifically to the president, the file names of the deleted videos, the timestamps. He handed me the notebook. And because yesterday she texted me this. He showed me his phone. Message from Sharon. Reminder, board vote on accessibility compliance issues scheduled for next meeting. Hope we don't need to address any violations that would affect residents' family members. She's threatening your daughter again. She's making it very clear what happens if I talk. But Mr. Bishop... Derek looked at me with the exhaustion of someone who'd compromised his integrity and couldn't live with it anymore. I have a daughter too. And if I stay silent while that woman covers up what her son did to those 4 kids, what kind of father does that make me? A scared one, not a bad one. My daughter told me last night that she heard about the shooting, asked me if the HOA was protecting the man who scared the children, asked me if I was helping. He wiped his eyes. I couldn't lie to her, so I told her the truth, that I signed a statement I knew was false because I was afraid, and she looked at me like I'd let her down. Derek stood, started pacing. I can't officially help you yet, can't testify or go on record. My daughter's accessibility is too important. But I came to warn you. Sharon's planning to issue violations to all 4 witness families. Retaliate against everyone whose kids saw what Ethan did. She's going to financially punish parents until they're too scared to support any investigation. When? Next 48 hours, she's documenting minor violations at all your homes. Parking issues, landscaping, anything she can manufacture, making it expensive to tell the truth. I took the notebook with its documentation of the evidence destruction. Derek, eventually this goes to law enforcement. Will you testify about what you saw? He looked at the floor. If my daughter's accessibility is protected, if there's immunity or protection from retaliation, then yes, I'll testify to everything, the deleted footage, the threatening texts, the false statement, all of it. "I'll make sure you're protected." After he left, I reviewed his documentation. Precise times, specific file names, login credentials, everything needed to prove the board chair had deliberately destroyed evidence of her son's crime. Sharon thought she'd erased what Ethan did. She'd only created proof of a cover-up, and now I had a witness willing to testify to it. Derek's warning came true exactly 48 hours later. The Johnson family received 3 HOA violations by certified mail. Unauthorized decorative items in front yard. Their daughter's playhouse had been there for 3 years. Improper fence height exceeding community standards, and landscaping maintenance below acceptable threshold. Total fines, $2,000. Mrs. Johnson called me, crying, "Marcus, we can't afford this. My husband wants to just pay the fines and tell Maya to say she doesn't remember what happened. He's scared Sharon will keep coming after us." The Patel family got 4 violations. Unapproved exterior paint color, the same beige they'd used for 5 years. Recreational equipment stored improperly. Their son's bike in the driveway. Mailbox non-compliance with design standards, and driveway surface deterioration. Fines, $2,500. Mr. Patel's voice was tight with controlled anger. "She's doing this because our June saw what her son did. She's punishing our family for our child's trauma. This is extortion." The Ramirez family received the most violations. 5 separate citations, including unauthorized vehicle parking, yard decorations exceeding permitted quantity, and exterior lighting non-compliance. $3,000 in fines. "We're selling our house," Mrs. Ramirez told me, her voice hollow. "We can't stay in a community where the HOA president terrorizes families whose children witnessed her son commit a crime. Sophia's already traumatized. Now she's asking why we're in trouble, why the HOA lady is mad at us." I received my own set of violations that same day. Unauthorized work vehicle in driveway. My county-issued emergency services truck that I'd parked there for 2 years without issue. Basketball hoop placement violation. Tyler's hoop, installed 3 years ago in the exact location approved by the previous HOA board. Yard maintenance below community standards. Subjective nonsense about grass height and hedge trimming. Exterior equipment storage violation. Tyler's bicycle visible from the street. Total, $2,200. Each violation notice included the same threatening language. Failure to remedy within 10 days will result in daily fines of $100 per violation and potential legal action, including property liens. But the board chair didn't stop with violations. That afternoon, a certified letter arrived from Sharon's attorney. 5 pages of legal threats on expensive letterhead. "Cease and desist. You are hereby notified to immediately cease all defamatory statements, harassing behavior, and false accusations against Ethan Caldwell and Sharon Caldwell. Your continued efforts to manufacture a false narrative regarding a lawful act of self-defense constitute defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and harassment. If you do not immediately cease these actions, our clients will pursue all available legal remedies, including claims for damages, injunctive relief, and recovery of attorney's fees." I read it twice, feeling the systematic intimidation closing in. Financial penalties for all witness families, legal threats, manufactured violations, all designed to make telling the truth too expensive, too scary, too costly. The other parents started wavering. "Mrs. Johnson, maybe the kids did seem loud that day. Maybe Ethan felt threatened. I don't know anymore." Mr. Patel. My son's having panic attacks about being in trouble. The HOA violations are making it worse. Maybe we should withdraw any support for investigation. Mrs. Ramirez had already listed their house for sale. I called each family back. Don't pay the fines yet. Don't withdraw your statements. Give me 1 week. To do what? Mrs. Johnson asked. Sharon controls the HOA. She's friends with the police. She has lawyers. We're just families trying to protect our kids, and she's destroying us financially for it. I work in emergency services. I know how evidence systems work. I know how to coordinate with law enforcement. And I know Sharon deleted security footage, but she can't delete everything. What do you mean? The 911 call I made is permanent government record. It captured the gunshot. It captured the children screaming. It captured my professional assessment that this was a shots-fired incident. Sharon can threaten us with violations and lawyers all day long. She can't threaten the evidence that's already archived in state emergency systems. But even as I said it, I could hear the doubt in their voices. The board chair was winning through fear and financial pressure. 4 families being systematically punished because their children witnessed her son commit a crime. I looked at Tyler's violation notice, his basketball hoop, the one he'd begged for 3 years ago, the one we'd installed so he could practice in our own driveway, now suddenly non-compliant. Sharon was teaching my son that telling the truth about being threatened with a gun resulted in punishment. That authority protected the person who scared him while punishing the victims. That evening, I made a decision. I wasn't fighting this through the HOA anymore. Wasn't trying to reason with Sharon or appeal to the board. I was going directly to the people who had the power to charge her son with the crime he'd committed and investigate her for the cover-up she'd orchestrated. The district attorney, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Police Internal Affairs. The HOA president thought she could intimidate witness families into silence with fines and legal threats. She was about to learn that some evidence doesn't care about her authority. And some fathers don't stop protecting their children just because it gets expensive. I pulled up the contact information for the county DA's office. Time to make sure the 911 recording that captured her son's gunshot got heard by the people who could actually do something about it. Sharon had fired her warning shot at the wrong children. Now she was about to face the consequences she'd spent a week trying to erase. I drove to the County 911 Communications Center at 6 a.m. the next morning, the place where I'd worked for 14 years, the place where I supervised every emergency call that came through our system, the place where permanent evidence of Sharon's son firing a weapon near children was stored on servers she had no authority to access. I logged into my supervisor account, pulled up the call database, searched for the date and time, October 15th, 3:47 p.m. There it was, my own 911 call. Call ID 2024-1015-347, Bishop M. Duration, 4 minutes, 23 seconds. Classification, shots fired, children present. Responding unit, Unit 847, GPS coordinates, 33.7492 degree N, 84.3882 degree W, Riverside Meadows Community Park. I clicked play, heard my own voice coming through the speakers. 911, what's your emergency? This is Marcus Bishop, Emergency Dispatch Supervisor, Employee ID 4782. I'm reporting an adult male who just discharged a firearm in a public park. Multiple children present, ages approximately 6 to 10. Children are fleeing and screaming. Shooter is still on scene with weapon visible. Location? Riverside Meadows Estates Community Park, basketball court area. GPS coordinates transmitting now. Then, the sound that made my hands clench. The gunshot. Loud crack captured clearly on my phone's microphone, followed immediately by children's terrified screaming. Shots fired! Shots fired! My voice, professional training fighting with father's panic. My 8-year-old son is one of the children present, requesting immediate response. The dispatcher's voice. Units responding, ETA 6 minutes. Stay on the E line. Can you describe the shooter? White male, approximately 19 years old, 6 feet tall, intoxicated appearance, wielding handgun, fired one warning shot into the air. Children scattered. I'm moving toward my son now. 4 minutes and 23 seconds of professional emergency reporting, mixed with a father's terror for his child's safety. Every word time-stamped. GPS located. Classified by the responding dispatcher as a shots-fired incident requiring urgent police response. I burned the recording to secure storage, made 3 backup copies on separate systems, and requested the official transcript through proper channels. Then I did something my 14 years of experience had trained me for. I consulted with my supervisor, Linda Martinez, and the county's legal department. I'm the victim's father and the reporting party, I explained. I need to know my rights to this recording. The county attorney was clear. As the reporting party and parent of a victim, you have legal access to your own 911 call. Additionally, under Georgia Open Records Act, 911 recordings are public record unless they're part of an active sealed investigation. And if I want to provide this to law enforcement investigating the incident, you have every right. It's evidence of a crime you witnessed and reported. I filed the formal open records request that afternoon, creating an official paper trail that I'd obtained the recording through legal channels. Then I pulled up the audio analysis tools we used for evidence review. The recording showed precise timestamps. Gunshot occurred at 3:47:34 p.m. Children screaming at 3:47:35 p.m. My report of shots fired at 3:47:38 p.m. The GPS data embedded in my phone's call placed me at the exact coordinates of the basketball court. The background noise captured everything. Children playing, Ethan shouting, "Get the hell out of here!" The car door opening, the gunshot, the screaming, my running footsteps, Tyler crying, "Daddy, he had a gun!" Sharon could delete security footage from HOA servers. She couldn't delete a 911 recording stored on redundant backup systems across state emergency networks, protected by evidence retention policies, classified as documentation of a shots-fired incident involving children. I called my colleague Sarah Chen, who specialized in audio forensics for criminal cases. I need a professional analysis of this recording, official expert opinion on what it documents. She reviewed it in my office, her expression growing darker with each replay. "Marcus, this is clear evidence of reckless conduct at minimum. Discharge of a firearm in a public area, children present and endangered. Professional emergency assessment classifying it as shots fired." She pulled up the waveform analysis. "The gunshot is unmistakable. High decibel discharge consistent with handgun fire. The children's distress is documented. Your professional identification as a dispatch supervisor adds credibility. And the GPS data proves location. Can the board chair argue this is somehow unreliable? She can try, but this is government-recorded emergency evidence with multiple redundant backups, metadata verification, and professional dispatch classification. Courts trust 911 recordings specifically because they're created in real time during emergencies, before anyone has time to construct false narratives. I thanked her, sat in my office, and looked at the recording on my screen. Sharon had spent a week trying to rewrite what happened, claiming her son felt threatened, blaming the children, deleting security footage, intimidating witness families into silence. But she'd forgotten one critical detail. I wasn't just a scared parent she could intimidate with HOA violations. I was the emergency dispatch supervisor who'd made the 911 call reporting her son's crime. And that call, with its timestamps, GPS data, audio evidence, and professional classification, was permanent government record that proved exactly what Ethan Caldwell had done. The board chair thought she'd erased the truth by deleting the security footage. She'd only erased the copy she could reach. The evidence she couldn't touch, the recording stored on systems she had no authority over, protected by state evidence retention policies, classified as documentation of a crime against children, was about to destroy everything she'd tried to cover up. I pulled up the contact information for the district attorney's major crimes division. Time to make sure the people who could actually charge Ethan Caldwell heard exactly what was on that recording. Complete with the gunshot, the screaming children, and my professional assessment that this was a shots-fired incident requiring immediate police response. Sharon's son had fired a warning shot at the wrong children, and the wrong father had called 911 to report it. Dr. Amy Richardson called me at 2 p.m. requesting an emergency parent consultation about Tyler. I drove to her office within 20 minutes, found Rachel already there, her face showing the same exhaustion I felt. Dr. Richardson didn't waste time with pleasantries. Tyler's trauma response is escalating, not improving. I need you to understand the severity. She pulled out assessment charts showing Tyler's anxiety levels, sleep patterns, behavioral changes over the past week. Your son is exhibiting classic PTSD symptoms following a life-threatening incident. Nightmares every single night. Hypervigilance. He jumps at any loud noise, even doors closing. Avoidance behavior. He won't go near the park, won't play outside, refuses to even look out windows facing the basketball court. We know, Rachel said quietly. We're trying to help him process it. But here's what's making it worse. Dr. Richardson pulled out the HOA violation notices I'd shared with her. Tyler knows his family is being punished. He's 8 years old, and he understands that the basketball hoop violation is because of what happened. He thinks he's the reason you're in trouble. My chest tightened. We've explained it's not his fault. But the HOA president's narrative is that the children were threatening and aggressive. Tyler heard that language in the violation notice when you were reading it. Now he's internalized it. Last session he asked me if he was a bad kid who made the man angry. I felt sick. An 8-year-old trauma survivor is blaming himself for being threatened with a gun because the authority figure in the community has constructed a narrative where the victims are the aggressors. Dr. Richardson's voice hardened. This isn't just psychological harm from the initial incident. This is ongoing trauma caused by the lack of accountability and the retaliation against his family. She handed me a formal letter on professional letterhead. I'm documenting this for any legal proceedings. Tyler Bishop has developed acute anxiety disorder and PTSD symptoms directly caused by witnessing Ethan Caldwell's threatening behavior and weapon discharge. The subsequent lack of accountability, no arrest, the perpetrator still in the community, the victim's family being blamed and financially punished, is actively preventing Tyler's healing and causing additional psychological harm. Rachel wiped her eyes. What about the other children? I've consulted with their therapists. Similar presentations across all 4 kids. The Ramirez girl is regressing, bedwetting, separation anxiety. The Patel boy is having panic attacks triggered by any authority figure. The Johnson girl has developed such severe avoidance that she refuses to leave her house. Dr. Richardson looked at both of us. 4 children have been psychologically damaged by one reckless act. and the person responsible is being protected while the victims are being punished. From a clinical perspective, this is one of the worst cases of secondary trauma I've seen, where the institutional response causes as much harm as the initial incident. I drove home with that letter, thinking about Tyler's question. Am I a bad kid? My son, who'd been playing basketball with his friends, who'd run away crying when a drunk man pulled a gun, who'd done absolutely nothing wrong, thought he was responsible for our family's punishment. That evening, Tyler asked another question that shattered me. Daddy, can we move away so the HOA lady won't be mad at us anymore? I knelt beside him, held his small hands. Tyler, listen to me very carefully. You didn't do anything wrong. The man who scared you did something very wrong. And the HOA lady is protecting him instead of protecting kids like you. But we're in trouble because of me. No, we're in trouble because I'm telling the truth about what happened to you. And sometimes telling the truth makes bad people angry. Is telling the truth worth it? I thought about the 911 recording, the evidence Sharon couldn't delete, the therapist letters documenting 4 children's trauma, the pattern of cover-up and retaliation. Yes, buddy, it's always worth it, because if we stay quiet, the HOA lady wins, and other kids might get scared by bad people who never get in trouble. After Tyler fell asleep, finally, after an hour of reassurance, I sat with Rachel in the kitchen. The other families are breaking, she said. The Johnsons might pay the fines and recant. The Ramirez family is selling. The Patels are considering just saying their son doesn't remember clearly. I know. Can you blame them? Sharon systematically destroying anyone who supports investigation. Financially, legally, emotionally. No, I can't blame them. I pulled out my phone, showed her the contact information I'd saved for the district attorney's office, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the Police Internal Affairs Division. But I'm not stopping, because Tyler just asked if we could move away to make the board chair happy. Our 8-year-old son wants to flee his own home to appease the woman protecting the person who traumatized him. What are you going to do? I'm bypassing the HOA entirely, going straight to law enforcement with the 911 recording, the therapist documentation, Derek's testimony about evidence destruction, everything. I looked at Rachel. Sharon thinks she's won because she's intimidated the other families into silence, but she's forgotten something. What? I don't need the other families to cooperate anymore. I have permanent evidence that doesn't require their testimony. A 911 recording that documents the crime. Professional assessments of the trauma. Proof of evidence tampering. Witness intimidation that's creating a federal case all by itself. I started typing emails to the DA, the GBI, multiple agencies. The HOA president has spent a week protecting her son and punishing victims. Starting tomorrow, she's going to learn that HOA authority doesn't protect anyone from criminal charges when there's government-recorded evidence of the crime. If you've ever watched your child blame themselves for being victimized, stay with me. Because what happened next proved that sometimes one parent with the right evidence can fight back even when everyone else is too scared to stand. I hit send on the first email. Sharon had targeted the wrong child and traumatized the wrong father. Derek Hammond returned 3 days later with a briefcase and determination replacing the fear I'd seen before. My daughter told me something last night that changed everything. He set the briefcase on my dining room table, hands steadier than they'd been during his first visit. She said, "Dad, those are little kids who got scared by a man with a gun. If you don't help them because you're afraid for me, I'll never forgive you." Then she told me she'd rather lose the wheelchair ramp than lose respect for her father. He opened the briefcase, pulled out organized folders. So here's everything, every single piece of evidence the board chair thought she'd hidden or controlled. First folder, security camera system access logs. These show Sharon's login credentials accessing the park camera system on October 16th at 5:23 a.m., exactly 14 hours after the shooting. She navigated to the specific date and time, selected the file labeled Park Basketball Court 10-15-1500-1600, and deleted it. The system logs don't lie. It wasn't a technical malfunction, it was manual deletion by the HOA president. Second folder, email chains. Sharon's messages to all board members after the shooting. Look at this one. Emergency meeting today, 6 p.m., my house only. We need to control the narrative before this gets out of hand. The children were harassing Ethan. He felt threatened. That's our position. She constructed the false narrative before any investigation, before talking to witnesses, before anything except protecting her son. Third folder. The statement Sharon had pressured board members to sign. Official HOA board position. The children present at the incident engaged in threatening and harassing behavior toward community resident Ethan Caldwell, who acted appropriately in self-defense. Claims to the contrary are false and constitute defamation of the Caldwell family. Every board member signed it, including me. I'll testify that Sharon threatened retaliation if we didn't. Fourth folder. Previous incident reports about Ethan that Sharon had buried. 8 months ago, domestic disturbance call. 6 months ago, Mrs. Chen's complaint about him threatening her. 4 months ago, resident complaint about aggressive behavior at the pool. 3 months ago, speeding incident where he threatened the person who reported him. All documented, all buried by the HOA president. Derek pulled out his phone, showed me text messages. Sharon to Derek. Board meeting next week. We'll be discussing accessibility compliance. Hope your daughter's ramp doesn't become an issue. Sharon to Derek. Reminder, those who support the family during difficult times are valued. Those who create problems face consequences. Sharon to Derek. Your daughter's modifications are under review. Cooperate, and we won't need to pursue violations. She was threatening my disabled daughter's access to our home to keep me silent about her deleting evidence and covering up her son's crime. Derek's voice shook with controlled fury. I'm a firefighter. I've worked with investigators for 30 years. And I watched an HOA president commit obstruction of justice while blackmailing board members into compliance. You'll testify to all of this? I'll testify to everything. The deleted footage, the constructed narrative, the threats, the cover-up, all of it. He met my eyes. But I need immunity from any potential charges for signing that false statement. And I need protection. Legal guarantee that Sharon can't retaliate against my daughter's accessibility. I'll make sure both happen. The DA will offer immunity in exchange for testimony, and once Sharon's facing criminal investigation, she won't have authority to threaten anyone. Derek pulled out one more document. HOA meeting minutes from yesterday. Emergency session. Sharon proposed fining all 4 witness families an additional $500 per week until they withdraw false statements and cease harassment of the Caldwell family. It passed 4-1. I was the only no vote. She's escalating the witness intimidation. She's panicking. She knows the 911 recording exists and she can't delete it. She knows families are talking to you. She's trying to crush everyone financially before they can cooperate with any investigation. I looked at the evidence spread across my table. Access logs proving evidence destruction. emails showing premeditated narrative construction, text messages documenting witness intimidation, previous incidents proving Ethan's pattern of dangerous behavior. Derek, this is enough for obstruction charges, evidence tampering, witness intimidation. The board chair didn't just cover up her son's crime. She committed multiple crimes doing it. I know. That's why I'm here. He stood, straightened his shoulders. I stayed silent too long because I was afraid. But those kids deserve better. My daughter deserves to live in a community that protects children, not the people who threaten them with guns. After he left, I organized his evidence with everything else I'd compiled. The 911 recording, the therapist assessments, the violation notices showing retaliation, the timeline of systematic intimidation. I called the district attorney's office, asked for the major crimes prosecutor. I'm reporting multiple crimes related to the October 15th shooting incident at Riverside Meadows. I have evidence of the initial crime, reckless conduct, and weapons violations. And I have evidence of subsequent crimes, evidence destruction, obstruction of justice, and witness intimidation by the HOA president, who's the shooter's mother. The prosecutor asked me to come in the next morning with all documentation. I hung up and looked at the briefcase Derek had left. A conflicted witness who'd finally found the courage to do the right thing, even though it meant risking everything he'd been threatened with. Sharon had built her cover-up on intimidation and fear. She'd forgotten that eventually, conscience outweighs coercion, and that some witnesses, when pushed too far, when protecting children becomes more important than protecting themselves, stop being silent and start being evidence. The HOA president had threatened the wrong firefighter's disabled daughter, and now that firefighter was about to testify to everything she'd done to cover up her son's crime. I walked into the district attorney's office the next morning carrying everything: the 911 recording, Derek's evidence, therapist assessments, violation notices, and a timeline showing Sharon's systematic cover-up. Assistant DA Jennifer Morrison reviewed it all in silence, her expression growing darker with each document. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. She pulled up the 911 recording, listened to the gunshot and children screaming. Adult male discharges firearm near 4 children ages 6 to 10. You, an emergency dispatch supervisor, make a professional 911 call reporting shots fired. Police respond, but make no arrest because the shooter's mother, who's HOA president, intervenes. Then she deletes security footage, intimidates witness families with financial penalties, and threatens a board member's disabled daughter to keep him silent about the evidence destruction. That's accurate. And you have documentation of all of this? I laid it out systematically. The 911 recording is permanent government evidence, time-stamped, GPS located, professionally classified as a shots-fired incident. Derek Hammond's testimony and access logs prove Sharon deleted the security footage 14 hours after the shooting. The therapist letters document ongoing trauma to 4 children. The violation notices and attorney threats show systematic witness intimidation, and the text messages prove she threatened Derek's daughter's wheelchair ramp to silence his testimony about the cover-up. Morrison made notes. This is multiple criminal violations: the initial shooting, reckless conduct, discharge of firearm in public area, weapons violations, Sharon's actions, evidence tampering, obstruction of justice, witness intimidation. Can you prosecute? I can prosecute Ethan Caldwell for the shooting. The 911 recording alone establishes probable cause, and the therapist assessments document harm to children. As for Sharon, She pulled up Georgia statutes. Evidence destruction is a felony when it's done to impede investigation. Witness intimidation through financial threats and retaliation is obstruction. The question is whether we can prove criminal intent versus HOA authority gone wrong. She deleted video evidence of her son committing a crime, then threatened witness families into silence. That's not HOA authority, that's obstruction. Morrison picked up her phone. I'm bringing in the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. They handle evidence tampering and public corruption cases. You'll need to provide everything to them as well. While she made calls, I contacted 4 more agencies. Sheriff's Office. Formal complaint about the initial responding officer's failure to arrest, despite the 911 call documenting shots fired near children. Police Internal Affairs. Investigation request into whether the HOA president's friendship with the officer's wife influenced the non-arrest decision. County Emergency Services. Notification that one of their supervisors was a victim in a case where his professional 911 call was essentially ignored by responding units. HOA insurance carrier. Formal notice that their insured, the HOA, had a president who deleted evidence of a firearms incident on community property, creating massive liability exposure. Each agency activated their own investigation. Each pressure point targeted a different aspect of the board chair's cover-up. But I did something else, something my 14 years managing emergency communications had taught me about evidence systems. I contacted the HOA's security camera company directly, explained I was investigating a deleted video file and needed to know about backup systems. The technician was helpful. Our residential community systems automatically upload footage to cloud storage every 24 hours. It's a redundant backup in case local servers fail or are damaged. Can local administrators delete the cloud backups? No. Cloud storage requires master account credentials that only our company controls. HOA administrators can delete local files, but cloud copies remain for 90 days. My hands clenched. So, if someone deleted footage from the local HOA server 14 hours after an incident, the cloud backup would still exist. Absolutely. The upload happens at midnight daily. Anything recorded before midnight is already in cloud storage, protected from local deletion. Sharon had deleted the basketball court footage on October 16th at 5:23 a.m., 17 hours after the shooting, 5 hours after the midnight cloud upload. She'd erased the local copy. The cloud backup, stored on servers she had no access to, protected by company-controlled credentials, automatically preserved as part of the system's redundancy protocols, still existed. I need that footage. I'm working with law enforcement on a criminal investigation. Can you preserve it and prepare it for subpoena? If you provide proper legal documentation, we'll preserve all footage from that date and make it available to investigating authorities. I called Morrison back immediately. The security footage Sharon deleted still exists in cloud backup. The company will preserve it for subpoena. You're certain? The camera system uploads to cloud storage every midnight. She deleted the local copy 17 hours after the shooting, but 5 hours after it had already uploaded to protected cloud backup. She didn't know the system well enough to understand she was only deleting the easily accessible copy. Morrison smiled, the cold smile of a prosecutor who just received gift-wrapped evidence. Get me the company's contact information. I'll have a subpoena prepared within the hour. I spent the rest of the day coordinating, providing Derek's documentation to GBI investigators, giving the 911 recording to the sheriff's office, submitting the therapist letters to support charges, and ensuring every piece of evidence reached the right agency. By evening, I had confirmation. DA's office, preparing criminal charges against Ethan Caldwell. GBI, opening investigation into Sharon Caldwell for evidence tampering and obstruction. Sheriff's Office, reviewing the responding officer's handling of the initial call. Security company, preserving cloud footage for legal subpoena. Each investigation independent but coordinated, each focused on a different aspect of the crime and cover-up. The HOA president had spent 2 weeks building a fortress of intimidation, threats, and erasure. She'd built it on the assumption that she controlled all the evidence, all the witnesses, all the narrative. She'd forgotten that emergency recordings live on government servers, that cloud backups exist beyond her authority, and that eventually, intimidated witnesses find courage. Sharon thought she'd erased the truth when she deleted that security footage. She'd only erased the copy she could reach. The permanent backup, stored in systems she didn't understand and couldn't access, was about to be recovered by law enforcement. And the board chair who'd covered up her son's crime was about to face criminal investigation for the cover-up itself. The security company executed the subpoena within 48 hours. I sat in Morrison's office, watching her pull up the recovered cloud footage on her computer, 8 minutes and 47 seconds that Sharon thought she'd erased forever. The video started at 3:42 p.m., October 15th. 4 children playing basketball: Tyler, Maya, Arjun, Sophia, laughing, running, being kids on a sunny afternoon. 3:44 p.m. Ethan's car pulls into the parking area. He gets out, visibly unsteady, walks toward the court. 3:45 p.m. Ethan approaches the children, shouting. Audio captured him clearly. "You kids need to shut up and get the hell out of here. This is my mother's area." The children back away, confused. Tyler says something we can't hear. 3:46 p.m. Ethan returns to his car, opens the driver's door, reaches inside. 3:46:30 p.m. He emerges holding a handgun. 3:46:45 p.m. He waves it at the children while yelling, "I said get out!" The children freeze in terror. 3:47 p.m. I enter the frame, running toward Tyler. 3:47:34. Ethan fires the warning shot into the air. The gunshot on video matched perfectly with the audio on my 911 recording. Same timestamp, same sharp crack, same immediate screaming from 4 terrified children. The kids scatter, running in different directions. Tyler runs toward me, crying. Sophia falls, gets up, keeps running. Maya and Arjun flee toward the playground. 3:48 p.m. Ethan laughs, actually laughs, gets in his car, drives away. 3:52 p.m. I'm still holding Tyler, who's shaking and crying. Other parents arrive, collect their traumatized children. 4:09 p.m. Sharon arrives in her vehicle. She talks to the responding police officer, gestures dismissively toward the children, points at me while clearly arguing. The officer nods, makes notes, eventually leaves without making an arrest. Morrison paused the video. This footage shows premeditated threatening behavior, reckless discharge of a firearm near children, and the immediate aftermath. Combined with your 911 recording and the therapist assessments, we have overwhelming evidence. What about Sharon? She pulled up the access logs Derek had provided. October 16th, 5:23 a.m. Sharon Caldwell logs into the security system using HOA president credentials, navigates to this exact file, deletes it. The system shows file deleted by user Scaldwell Prius at 05:23:47. She thought she'd erased the only visual evidence. She erased the local copy, but the cloud backup uploaded at midnight on October 15th, 5 hours before she deleted it. She destroyed evidence from the HOA server, but didn't understand the system architecture well enough to know cloud copies existed beyond her access. Morrison started drafting charges. Ethan Caldwell, reckless conduct, discharge of firearm on or near public highway, pointing or aiming gun or pistol at another. Sharon Caldwell. Tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice. When? Arrest warrants within a week. We'll coordinate with GBI on Sharon's charges since evidence tampering in a criminal investigation falls under their jurisdiction. I also coordinated the final piece, media strategy. I contacted investigative journalist Lisa Chen, who specialized in community safety and accountability stories. Provided her with the 911 recording, now public record under Georgia Open Records Act, excerpts from the recovered security footage, obtained through law enforcement subpoena, therapist statements about child trauma, with family's permission and identifying details redacted, and documentation of Sharon's retaliation against witness families. This is a major story, Lisa said. HOA president covers up son's shooting near children by deleting evidence and intimidating witnesses. The 911 recording alone, professional dispatcher calling about his own child being threatened with a gun, that's compelling. Can you run it before the arrests? Not the criminal charges, that would compromise prosecution, but the cover-up, the retaliation, the systematic intimidation of families, that's all documented through public records and willing witnesses. I can run that story now. I also prepared something else, a comprehensive email to all 220 Riverside Meadows households. Subject: Important community safety information regarding October 15th incident. Body: On October 15th, 4 children were threatened with a firearm at the community park. The incident was reported to police via 911 call, public record available upon request. Security camera footage was subsequently deleted from HOA servers. Witness families have received retaliatory violations and financial penalties. A criminal investigation is now active. Emergency HOA meeting will be scheduled to address board accountability and child safety policies. I didn't send it yet. Waited for Morrison's signal that arrests were imminent. But I prepared everything. The evidence packages for each agency, the media contacts, the community notification, the coordination with the other victim families. The board chair had spent 3 weeks building her cover-up through intimidation and erasure. I'd spent 3 weeks building a prosecution through permanent evidence she couldn't delete. Government 911 recordings, cloud backups she didn't know existed, therapist assessments documenting harm, insider testimony from the witness she'd threatened. Sharon had made one critical error in her cover-up. She'd assumed that deleting the easily accessible evidence meant she'd erase the truth. She'd forgotten that modern evidence systems have redundancy built in specifically to prevent deletion, that 911 calls back up across state networks, that cloud storage exists beyond local administrator control, that metadata and access logs document every action. She'd treated evidence destruction like it was 1995, when deleting a local file meant it was gone forever. But this was 2024, when deleted just meant removed from the primary location, while backups, cloud copies, and system logs preserved everything for people who knew where to look. And the father whose son she'd blamed for being threatened with a gun happened to be the emergency dispatch supervisor who knew exactly where to look, how to preserve it, and who to provide it to. Morrison called me that evening. Arrest warrants approved. Ethan Caldwell and Sharon Caldwell. Execution Monday morning, 6 a.m., 4 days away. I looked at the community email I'd drafted, the media contacts I'd prepared, the timeline of everything that was about to converge. In 4 days, the HOA president who'd covered up her son's crime would be arrested for evidence tampering. In 4 days, the son who'd fired a warning shot at children would face criminal charges. In 4 days, every family in Riverside Meadows would learn that their board chair had deleted evidence, intimidated witnesses, and protected a dangerous person while punishing traumatized children. Sharon had thought her authority made her untouchable. Monday morning, she'd learned that evidence she couldn't delete makes everyone accountable. Monday morning, 6:04 a.m. I was already awake, watching my phone for confirmation, when the text arrived from Morrison. Both subjects in custody. Caldwell, E. arrested at residence. Caldwell, S. arrested at residence. Processing now. 2 police units had executed arrest warrants at the Caldwell home simultaneously. One for Ethan, one for Sharon. Charges against Ethan Caldwell. Reckless conduct, Georgia Code, paragraph 16(5)-60. Discharge of firearm on or near public highway, paragraph 16-11-103. Pointing or aiming gun or pistol at another, paragraph 16-11-102. Charges against Sharon Caldwell, tampering with evidence, paragraph 16-10-94. Obstruction of justice, paragraph 16-10-24. By 9 a.m. the news broke. HOA president arrested for evidence tampering in son's shooting case. Mother and son arrested, weapon fired near children, security footage deleted. Emergency dispatcher's 911 call leads to criminal charges against HOA president. Lisa Chen's investigative piece aired that evening, and it was devastating. She opened with audio from my 911 call, my voice identifying myself as emergency dispatch supervisor, reporting shots fired, my professional assessment turning to father's panic. My son is one of the children present. Then the gunshot sound, the children screaming, 4 seconds of audio that told the entire story. Lisa interviewed the victim families, faces obscured, voices altered, but their words clear. Mrs. Johnson: "My daughter won't play outside anymore. She's terrified. And when we tried to tell the truth about what happened, the HOA president sent us thousands of dollars in violation fines." Mr. Patel: "Our 9-year-old thinks he's in trouble because the HOA said the children were threatening. A traumatized kid blaming himself for being scared by a man with a gun." Mrs. Ramirez: "We were planning to sell our house and leave because the retaliation was so severe. The HOA president was systematically punishing families whose children witnessed her son's crime." The story showed the memorial plaque at the park. "Dedicated to the children of Riverside Meadows. May they always play safely." Lisa's voiceover: "That promise was broken on October 15th when Ethan Caldwell, 19, fired a warning shot near 4 children playing basketball. What happened next, according to arrest warrants and recovered evidence, was a cover-up orchestrated by his mother, HOA President Sharon Caldwell." The piece detailed the deleted security footage, the recovered cloud backup, the systematic intimidation of witness families, Derek Hammond's testimony about threats to his disabled daughter. It went national within hours. Major news outlets picked it up. HOA president deleted evidence of son shooting, threatened witnesses. Legal commentators analyzed it on cable news. This case highlights how HOA authority can be weaponized to obstruct justice when board members believe they're above accountability. Child safety advocates used it as an example. 4 children traumatized, then blamed and retaliated against, while the person who threatened them was protected by his mother's position of power. My phone exploded with messages. The other victim families: relief, vindication, hope that justice was finally happening. Neighbors: shock, outrage, demands for HOA board accountability. Media: interview requests, background questions, requests for the 911 recording. By evening, the story had been shared hundreds of thousands of times on social media. Riverside Meadows trended on Twitter. Parents across the country commenting, This is why HOA authority needs limits, and imagine covering up your son firing a gun near children. Sharon's attorney issued a statement at 6 p.m. Ms. Caldwell acted to preserve her son's rights during what she believed was a mischaracterization of events. She maintains her innocence and looks forward to her day in court. The statement backfired spectacularly. Legal analysts immediately dissected it. Preserving your son's rights doesn't include deleting security footage of a crime. That's obstruction regardless of motive. She believed it was a mischaracterization? The 911 recording has a gunshot and children screaming. That's not subjective. By midnight, the county sheriff's office announced the responding officer who'd failed to arrest Ethan initially was under internal investigation for improper handling of a shots-fired incident involving juveniles. The HOA's insurance company sent a letter to all board members. I obtained a copy through one of the members who'd voted against Sharon's retaliation scheme. Notice of coverage denial due to evidence of intentional evidence destruction and witness intimidation by board leadership. Coverage for any claims related to the October 15th incident is denied. The board is advised to seek independent legal counsel. No insurance coverage, criminal charges, national media attention, internal police investigation. Sharon's carefully constructed cover-up was collapsing under the weight of evidence she thought she'd erased, but had only hidden in places she didn't understand. I sat with Tyler that night, showed him the news coverage, age-appropriate portions, explaining that the man who'd scared him was facing consequences, that the HOA president who'd blamed the children was being held accountable. "Does this mean we're not in trouble anymore?" he asked. "You were never in trouble, buddy. The HOA president was lying to protect her son. But the truth, the recording I made when I called for help, the video the investigators recovered, the truth proved what really happened. That I was scared and ran away. That you were a smart kid who got away from a dangerous situation. And that the adults who were supposed to protect you tried to blame you instead. But other adults, the police, the prosecutors, people who care about kids being safe, they made sure the truth mattered more than the lies." Tyler was quiet for a moment. "Is it over now?" I thought about the arrests, the charges, the media coverage, the insurance denial. "Not yet. There's still a trial, and meetings, and changes to make sure this never happens again. But the hardest part, the part where people didn't believe what happened to you, that's over. Everyone knows the truth now." He hugged me tight. "Thank you for not giving up, Daddy." I held my son and thought about the journey. The gunshot that started everything. The 911 call I'd made while running toward him. The cover-up Sharon had orchestrated. The evidence she'd deleted that I'd recovered. The witnesses she'd intimidated who'd found courage. The board chair had thought HOA authority made her powerful enough to erase truth. She'd learned that some truths, recorded on government systems, backed up in clouds, documented by professionals, preserved by people who understand evidence, can't be erased no matter how much authority you wield. Sharon Caldwell was in custody. The children were finally believed, and Riverside Meadows was about to learn what accountability looks like. The emergency HOA meeting was called within 72 hours of Sharon's arrest. The community center overflowed. 220 households, media cameras stationed outside, not permitted inside per HOA rules, but recording interviews in the parking lot, and parents who'd been silent for weeks now ready to speak. Sharon wasn't there. Released on bond with conditions prohibiting HOA involvement pending her criminal case. But the 4 remaining board members sat at the front table, looking like they wished they could be anywhere else. Derek Hammond stood first, his voice steady despite the packed room. "I'm resigning as vice president effective immediately." He pulled out the statement Sharon had pressured board members to sign. "3 weeks ago, I signed this document claiming the children who witnessed Ethan Caldwell's shooting were threatening and harassing him. I knew it was false. I signed it anyway because Sharon Caldwell threatened my disabled daughter's wheelchair ramp, told me if I didn't support her family, she'd cite accessibility violations that would force removal." The room erupted in angry murmurs. Derek held up his phone, showed the text messages on the projection screen. "Board meeting next week. We'll be discussing accessibility compliance. Hope your daughter's ramp doesn't become an issue. Those who support the family during difficult times are valued. Those who create problems face consequences. Your daughter's modifications are under review. Cooperate, and we won't need to pursue violations. She blackmailed me using my daughter's disability, and I stayed silent while she deleted evidence, intimidated witness families, and covered up a crime against children." Derek's voice broke. "I'm ashamed, I'm sorry, and I'll testify to everything I witnessed in any legal proceeding necessary." He sat down to stunned silence. I stood next, holding Tyler's hand. My son had insisted on coming, wanted to see the HOA lady's friends know the truth. On October 15th, 4 children were threatened with a firearm at our community park. I called 911, a professional emergency call reporting shots fired near children. That recording is now evidence in a criminal case against Ethan Caldwell. I displayed the timeline on the projector screen. October 15th, 3:47 p.m. Shooting occurs. October 16th, 5:23 a.m. Sharon Caldwell deletes security footage. October 16th to 18th. All witness families receive retaliatory HOA violations totaling thousands of dollars. October 20th. Sharon's attorney sends cease and desist threatening lawsuits if we continued false accusations. This wasn't HOA enforcement. This was systematic obstruction of justice and witness intimidation. And it was all designed to protect one person, her son, while punishing children who'd been traumatized. Mrs. Johnson stood, her daughter Maya beside her. "My 10-year-old won't leave our house, won't play outside, developed such severe anxiety that she's in therapy twice a week. And when we tried to tell the truth about what happened, the board chair sent us $2,000 in violation fines for a playhouse that's been in our yard for 3 years." Mr. Patel stood with his son, Arjun. "Our 9-year-old had panic attacks for weeks. He thought he was bad because the HOA said the children were threatening. A traumatized kid blaming himself for being scared by a drunk man with a gun. The board chair did that to my son to protect hers." Mrs. Ramirez stood, voice shaking with controlled fury. "We were selling our house, leaving because the retaliation was so severe. Our 6-year-old regressed, bedwetting, nightmares, separation anxiety. And the HOA president's response? $3,000 in fines and threats of more if we didn't stay silent." Then Tyler spoke, his small voice carrying through the silent room. "The man scared me. He had a gun. I ran away and cried. The HOA lady said I was bad, said I was threatening, but I wasn't. I was just playing basketball." The room was absolutely still. One of the remaining board members, Robert Chen, who'd voted against Sharon's retaliation proposal, stood. "I move for immediate dissolution of the current board, emergency elections within 30 days, and full cooperation with all law enforcement investigations into HOA actions related to this incident." The vote was unanimous. Every household. The board dissolved on the spot. Then the community spoke for 2 hours. Stories of Sharon's abuse of authority dating back years. residents she'd threatened, families she'd intimidated, people she'd punished for questioning her decisions. A pattern of authoritarian control that had been building for years, culminating in her son firing a weapon near children and her orchestrating a cover-up to protect him. New leadership was proposed. Parents, safety advocates, people committed to ensuring HOA authority would never again be weaponized against families. Derek approached the victim families afterward. "I should have stopped her weeks ago, should have reported the evidence destruction immediately. I let fear for my daughter override protecting your children. I'm sorry." Mrs. Johnson looked at him for a long moment. "You came forward eventually. You gave investigators the evidence they needed. That matters." The community stayed long after the official meeting ended, establishing new policies, creating accountability measures, drafting protections to ensure children's safety would always take priority over protecting board members or their families. I stood at the back watching Riverside Meadows transform from a community ruled by fear and retaliation into one committed to transparency and accountability. The memorial plaque at the park, "May they always play safely," had been a broken promise for 3 weeks. Tonight, the community was working to restore it. Sharon Caldwell had used HOA authority to cover up a crime, intimidate witnesses, and punish traumatized children. Her arrest, the evidence recovery, and the community's response had proven that some authority, when abused this severely, triggers accountability that no position of power can protect against. The board chair was facing criminal charges. The children were finally believed and protected, and a community was learning that democracy works when people stop being afraid to challenge corrupt authority. Tyler squeezed my hand. "The HOA lady doesn't get to be in charge anymore?" "No, buddy, she doesn't. And the new people in charge? They're parents like us who want kids to be safe." "Good," he smiled. The first real smile I'd seen from him in 3 weeks. "Can I play basketball again?" "Soon, when you're ready, and this time, the adults in charge will actually protect you." We walked out of the community center into a neighborhood finally free of the fear Sharon had created. The HOA president who'd thought her authority made her untouchable had been removed, arrested, and stripped of the power she'd abused. And 4 children could start healing knowing the truth had won. 6 months later, I stood at the renovated community park watching Tyler play basketball with the same 3 kids who'd been there the day everything changed. Sophia Ramirez, now 7, laughing as she dribbled. Arjun Patel, 10, making jump shots without flinching at the sound of the ball hitting the rim. Maya Johnson, 11, coaching the younger kids with confidence that had taken months to rebuild. And Tyler, my 8-year-old son, playing without fear for the first time since October. Ethan Caldwell had pleaded guilty to reckless conduct and weapons violations. 12 months probation, mandatory anger management, and substance abuse counseling. Prohibition on firearms possession for 5 years. 100 hours community service at children's safety organizations. Sharon Caldwell faced trial for evidence tampering and obstruction. Her attorney had approached Morrison about a plea deal 3 times. Each time, Morrison rejected it. "Your client deleted evidence of a crime against children, then systematically intimidated witness families. We're going to trial." The trial was scheduled for next month. Derek Hammond would testify. I would testify. The 911 recording would be played for a jury. The recovered cloud footage would show exactly what Ethan did and what Sharon tried to erase. But the real victory wasn't just the criminal cases. It was the transformation of Riverside Meadows. New HOA leadership, elected by overwhelming majority, included 3 parents of young children, a retired teacher who specialized in child safety, and Derek Hammond, who'd turned his shame into advocacy. They'd implemented comprehensive reforms, security footage automatically uploaded to cloud storage that no single board member could access or delete. Criminal incidents triggered automatics, independent investigation with zero board interference. Witness retaliation became grounds for immediate removal and potential criminal charges. Children's safety concerns received priority response with mandatory reporting to law enforcement. The symbolic basketball court had been renovated and rededicated. The original memorial plaque remained, dedicated to the children of Riverside Meadows. May they always play safely. But there was a new addition beside it. Safety Restored 2024, when community chose children over cover-ups. The 4 traumatized children were healing, slowly, with ongoing therapy. Tyler still had occasional nightmares, but they were decreasing. He'd learned that telling the truth, even when scary people tried to make you stay quiet, eventually led to safety and justice. Sophia had stopped bedwetting. Her parents decided to stay in Riverside Meadows after seeing the community's transformation. Arjun's panic attacks had diminished with therapy, and the knowledge that the man who'd scared him faced consequences. Maya was playing outside again, though her mother still watched from the porch, a protective vigilance that would probably never fully fade. The families who'd almost been financially destroyed by Sharon's retaliation. The new HOA board had rescinded every violation issued during the cover-up period, refunded every fine, issued formal apologies. Mrs. Johnson told me last week. My daughter asked if the new HOA people would protect her if something bad happened again. I could finally say yes and mean it. I'd received calls from other communities, HOA officials covering up incidents, families being intimidated into silence about safety concerns. I helped them navigate the process, file open records requests for emergency calls, work with law enforcement to recover deleted footage through cloud subpoenas, document witness intimidation systematically, coordinate multiple agencies simultaneously. Each case reinforced what Sharon had learned too late. You can intimidate witnesses, delete accessible evidence, and threaten families into silence. But you can't erase recordings from government emergency systems with redundant backups, cloud storage beyond your authority, or the determination of parents protecting their children. The county now used my case in emergency dispatcher training, teaching them that their recordings can be crucial evidence when authorities initially fail to act, that their professional documentation protects victims when cover-ups begin, that the systems they manage create permanent accountability. I'd also started consulting with HOA reform advocates, helping draft state legislation requiring independent investigation of any incident involving weapons or threats to minors, criminal penalties for HOA officials who delete evidence or intimidate witnesses, mandatory reporting requirements when children's safety is at stake. Tyler approached me at the court, sweaty and happy. "Dad, can we stay longer? We're having a tournament." I looked at my son, the kid who'd been too terrified to play outside for weeks, who'd blamed himself for being threatened, who'd asked if we could move away to make the HOA president happy. Now playing basketball on the same court where he'd been traumatized, with the same friends who'd witnessed it, in a community that had finally chosen accountability over protecting corrupt authority. "Yeah, buddy, we can stay. Thanks for not giving up when everyone was scared." I thought about the journey, the gunshot that changed everything, the 911 call I'd made while running toward my terrified son, Sharon's systematic cover-up, the evidence she'd deleted that I'd recovered, the witnesses she'd intimidated who found courage, the agencies I'd coordinated, the media exposure that made accountability unavoidable. You know why I didn't give up? Why? Because you and those other kids deserved adults who would protect you instead of protecting the person who scared you. And sometimes that means fighting battles when everyone else thinks it's not worth it. Tyler hugged me, then ran back to his game. I stood beside the renovated memorial plaque, watching children play safely while their parents watched without fear. Sharon Caldwell had thought HOA authority made her powerful enough to erase truth, silence witnesses, and protect her son from consequences for firing a weapon near children. She'd learned that some truths, recorded on government systems, backed up in clouds she didn't understand, preserved by professionals who know evidence architecture, survive every attempt at deletion. The board chair was awaiting trial for evidence tampering. Her son was on probation for weapons violations. And 4 children could finally play basketball without fear because one father refused to let a cover-up succeed. If you want more stories about parents who refused to stay silent when authorities protected dangerous people over traumatized children, hit subscribe right now. Share your own story in the comments about standing up to corrupt power, and let me know where you're watching from. Because sometimes the greatest victories come from one piece of permanent evidence that couldn't be deleted. A 911 recording made by a father who happened to be the exact professional who understood how to preserve it, recover what was erased, and coordinate the agencies that could deliver justice. The call transcript didn't just leak. It ended a cover-up, triggered criminal charges, reformed a community, and proved that when you threaten children, delete evidence, and intimidate witnesses, eventually you face the one thing authority can't protect you from: accountability. Sharon's warning shot hit the wrong children, and the father who called 911 knew exactly how to make sure that call recording destroyed her career. The basketball court was safe again, the children were protected, and the memorial plaque's promise, "May they always play safely," finally meant something.